Shantagia here, author of the Shaloma and Scraps of Love, and today I wanted to take a few minutes to visit with you and chat about the things that I learned while I was working on the Shaloma for the 2 years that I pretty much agonized over it. Man, I'm going to be looking down because my notes are on the ground here. I really like this paneling behind me at my house, and I'm actually on quarantine right now, but I'm doing well, no symptoms or anything. I'll be going back to work on the 13th if everything goes well, and I'm just taking advantage of the time that I have to do a little bit of filming and, I don't know, talk about my writing since we haven't had much time for that, and I've been kind of lax on my channels here. So it's kind of a warm day here in Texas. It's about 90 degrees, which is 10 degrees hotter than usual. So it's a little sticky, and I've already got my air conditioner's not really working, so I'm kind of toasty. But as long as you don't mind the shine and you can hear the birds in the tree next to me and you don't mind, I'm really glad that you're here. So I kind of wanted to talk about the things that I learned about myself and the writing process while I was working on the Shaloma. And I feel like I grew a lot over the last 2 years of working on this story. It's definitely something that was way outside of my comfort zone, and I really liked the challenge of it, but I also kind of drove me nuts at the same time. And these things are completely out of order. I didn't organize them according to importance. I just sat down and wrote down 10 things. So they're kind of 10 things I learned in no particular order. So one of the main things that I learned while working on this story is that I am capable of completing a fiction project. I started my first big project, The Children of Cachette. I found the original papers yesterday, and we actually started working on that in 2005. So I kind of have this mentality that I just can't finish anything because I never have, other than my poetry collection. And that kind of even seemed unfinished in a way, even though it was all there. So with the Shaloma, though, I was very determined to complete it, and I kept having to step away from it and come back to it. I did that multiple times. It went through at least 3 complete rewrites, in addition to different drafts of, levels of whatever as I was working through it. Panda's visiting me. I don't know if you've met Panda. This is my boy. He's so handsome. But anyway, distracted by the handsomeness that is visiting me. He's an indoor-outdoor cat, so he likes it when I come sit outside. But anyway, I got distracted. So it definitely was important to me to finish, though. I was very determined to finish it, and I definitely gave myself the permission and the space to do that. In that I didn't pick up any other projects. I did plotting and some planning for some other ideas that I have, and I definitely worked a lot on the sequel because I really wanted to not forget anything and then have plot holes and stuff or discrepancies in the story. So I kind of have been working on the Rafa at the same time. But for the most part, I really just stayed focused on the Shaloma. And it paid off. I mean, it really did. The other thing that I learned is that it really is okay in the writing process, whether you're in the writing phase where you're choosing to spend your time on your project, or if you're in the querying publishing process and you're negotiating or talking about publishing and editing and things like that, that it really is okay to choose yourself and your needs, whether those are your professional needs or your personal needs. As far as like myself, I was too overextended at the time that I was trying to get this story into the anthology that it was intended for. and I had to pull out of the project. And I really struggled and had a slump with that whole situation because it kind of really made me feel like a failure. I was already struggling with imposter syndrome and everything. So I already kind of felt like a failure. Sorry about that. I got bit by an ant, and I don't know if you've ever been bitten by an ant in Texas, but they seriously burrow themselves into your skin and just burn like fire. So that's what I was doing. I had to stop. My toe is now bleeding. It got me like 3 times. But anyway, so I think that really was the best thing that happened because I learned a lot about myself that I am capable of following my instincts when it comes to my work, and that I am okay with making that mistake. If it was a mistake, that I was okay with that. So just establishing those boundaries, it made me feel really confident in my choices and the path that I've decided to go on as far as self-publishing and everything. So I really feel like that was the best thing that could have happened out of this whole thing. Like, if that was the outcome that needed to happen, I really feel like it was the right one. The next thing that I learned, which is just kind of silly, but I don't know if y'all remember Cockeygate and all that stuff a year or so ago. I learned that you can copyright a title, or like a series title, and I didn't realize that until I went to register my copyright for the Shaloma, and then it did give you an option to copyright like the series name, and so I learned how to do that, and I thought that was pretty cool. The next thing that I learned is that working with editors is really a very, very awesome experience. I lucked out with Caprice. She did an excellent job with my manuscript. I felt like she got it. Like she understood what I was going for and gave me all the guidance that I needed to make sure that it got there, by keeping me on track, catching discrepancies in the story. Definitely, if there's any errors in there, they're not her fault, they're mine. Because she did an amazing job, and I really enjoyed reading through her notes, and that experience was just so neat. I've worked with alpha readers and beta readers before, but this was just like a whole nother level. Just knowing that she was 100% on the side of my story, and that her mission was to make it as perfect and great as she could make it, to help me succeed. And I thought that was really awesome. It was a really excellent experience, and I'm going to link her website down below so you can go check out her services. Another thing that I tried that was different was I decided to try to format as I was writing. And that really didn't work for me because I got my arcs, and I had originally did my arc as a 9x6, which was the same size as Scraps of Love, which is fine. It worked really well for that size book because there is a lot of poetry in that book. So it looks really nice. It looks good on the shelf. It doesn't look awkward. But when I got the Shaloma, because it is a novella, well, more of a novelette, which I learned afterwards, but it's published as a novella. When I got it in my hands, because it was so few pages, it just didn't feel right. It didn't lay right. It just didn't feel right. So I ended up having to reformat it into 5x8, which really wasn't a big deal because I was using Word and it's just copy and paste and all that. So it really wasn't too bad, except for when it came time to figure out how to change the numbering of the pages because it kind of got wonky when I moved it from the one size to another, and I probably could have just resized it, but when I tried that, it just did weird stuff. So I ended up cutting and pasting, or copying and pasting. So I don't know that I would ever do that again. I think I would wait until I was completely done with the manuscript to format it. And I've seen other author tubers that do format as they go, and it works for them. And I suppose if, like with the Rafa, it's going to be the same format. It's going to be the same size. It's going to have the same internal design. So maybe with that one, it will be a lot easier and better to do that with. Sorry, I'm itching my toe because it's burning. So maybe with if you were like working within a series and you already knew what you were going to be doing and expecting, it would be different. But I guess if I was to start a new novel, I wouldn't be so hasty to decide what size it would be because I compared it. Just having it in my hand was awkward, and then I went and compared it to the other short story books that I own, and it was way bigger, and so I ended up just deciding to make it smaller. I also learned, if you follow me on Facebook and Instagram, about backing up your work. This is something that I've done many times. Um, just having like multiple flash drives and everything all over the place that you can't even keep track of it. And it just got very confusing for me because I would update one time and update another time. And so I would have all these different versions of my backup. And so I'd gotten pretty lazy about it, very lazy about it. And I didn't have anything automatically backing up to the cloud or anything. So big mistake. I decided that I needed to do a backup, but I ended up backing it up only to an external hard drive, and I was in the process of getting it backed up to something like on the cloud or my Google Drive or whatever when we had an accident with a dog going after a mailman through the window, which resulted in my hard drive flying through the air. Now, I did end up finding a few weeks ago, like a month ago maybe, I found a backup of all of my Scrivener files that I had. I don't even know, but I don't remember doing it, but I did it, and I'm just so thankful. So I just learned to make sure that there are multiple backups of my work, and maybe having an external hard drive and a flash drive, and then just making it a routine to make sure that I back those things up is not a bad idea, because I seriously lost my entire photography catalog, years and years of work. I was able to recover my writing, but all that photography is pretty much gone unless I can come up with $500 to see if someone can recover it off that hard drive. So always back up your work. You'll thank yourself sometime in your future. I also enjoyed discovery writing, which I've never really done before, but with the Shaloma, I kind of had like a loose idea of where I wanted to go with the story. So I kind of picked my 7 main plot points, and then I just kind of wrote to them. Definitely writing the end was hardest. I knew where I wanted it to go. Like when I started the story, the end of the story had already played in my mind. So I knew where it was going, but it was just getting there. And I did a lot of discovery and exploration while I was writing the story. I didn't do a lot of world building, which is abnormal for me. A lot of the world building came organically when I would get to a place and I'd have to ask myself a question like, why is this or why is that? And then maybe go hit up Google, like for instance, for tattooed eyes, having to go and I mean, I could have done without the pictures, but going and reading about the process of eye tattoos and healing time and what happens when you get it done and all this stuff. So I just kind of explored the story as it was being written, and I thought that was really fun. I enjoyed it. I don't know that I could do that with a longer piece of fiction, but for a shorter piece, it really did work, and I enjoyed it. I also experimented with POV, and I think this actually ended up making my opening a lot stronger. And it was that first 2 chapters that earned the awards that I won from the summer writing contest that I won first in, and the Mary Carey Award, which was awesome. I wasn't expecting. I knew I got an email that I should be there because I won an award, but I didn't expect to win 2 awards. I was thinking maybe I won third or second. So that was amazing and exciting, very validating. Um, but I do think that that is what helped create that strong opening because I had started writing it in third person, and then it just wasn't working. Like there's something not working, and I'm not one to really enjoy first person. I don't even really enjoy reading first person. It's hard for me to suspend my belief in those kinds of stories. So, but I was like desperate because I was just stuck and I couldn't figure out why the story wasn't flowing right. So I ended up rewriting the first two chapters in first person. Now that didn't end up working either, so I ended up rewriting it again in third person, which is what I published it in, and that's my preferred tense and POV. But so first it was third person past, um, but I feel like that really set the tone for the story. So I think it made it for a stronger tone, and it really helped change the voice of the story. And then I was able to carry that through the rest of the story. So I learned a lot. I learned I still do not like first person, and that's okay. It's not because it's lazy writing. It's just not something that it's not how I tell stories. Um, so yeah, it didn't really work for me. Um, I also learned because I submitted this story to a contest. I learned how to write a book synopsis and a cover letter, and I read the cover letter. It wasn't that bad. I just did some quick googling, and I don't recommend it, but I did some quick googling on how to do it, and I've been writing customer service letters for years, so just kind of drew on my experience as a letter writer and came up with a really good cover letter. And then the book synopsis got really good notes from the judges from the contest. They said that I wrote it very well, that it expressed not only the story, but it was written in the same powerful way as the prose was written in the story. So I think that helped a lot because it was able to reflect the story and the tone of the story, even though it was just a synopsis of the story. Um, and then I think, like, other than learning that I can write a story from beginning to end, complete it, publish it, get it done, win awards for it, I really also learned that if I want to, and this is just, it's going to sound really dumb, but I think you guys look at it, there is always time for my writing. No matter what is going on in my life, if that is something that I really want and I'm really focused on. And I think sometimes we use the busyness and the stresses of life as an excuse to not work on our stories and whatever it is that we are creating, whether it's music or painting or whatever. We kind of let those things distract us and become an excuse. And I was going through a lot during this. So just with my job being a stressful job, it's a high energy job. I'm an introvert. It's difficult for me a lot of the time to have the energy that I need to get through the day. So when I get home, I'm really not interested in doing anything but going to bed. And then, like, the personal struggles that I was having with my house and my air conditioning, and it was 100 and some degrees down here, and I had nowhere to stay. And then all of the drama with moving in with a roommate, and all the loss and terrible things that happened while I was there, which one of these days I'll talk about that. Um, but in the midst of all of that, I not only decided that I was going to do a final edit, I chose a publishing date. I did a small, but I did a marketing campaign, and I reformatted it like 3 times. I participated in a book club where the book club read it. Like, I did a lot, even within all of that stress that was happening. And so I'm hoping that I just remember that the no matter what's happening in your life, no matter how stressful it is, even if it's 15 minutes or a half an hour, or your day off, your one day of your 2 days off, or whatever, like, there always is time and opportunity to focus on your dreams of being a writer and your goals and your publishing goals and your writing. And You know, all those things are important and valid. We're meant to create. If we weren't, there wouldn't be hundreds of thousands and millions and billions of us creating things that we're passionate about. So always make time for your passions in life. And who knows, like maybe if I hadn't had that outlet while I was going through all those things, maybe it would have been a lot worse, like personally. Maybe I wouldn't have coped as well if I hadn't had that escape. So who knows? But those are like the 10 things that I learned while writing the Shaloma. There were a lot of other things that I learned as well, but those were the 10 main ones that I could think of. And I hope you enjoyed this. I hope you enjoyed the journey as I was going on it, because you guys have been with me. Pretty much whenever I was working on it, I was filming, so you guys were with me pretty much the whole way. And I'm really proud of the Shaloma, even though, like I said in a past video, it felt like every time I put my hands to it, it seemed like everything in my life would fall apart. But I'm going to leave you guys because I can feel I have some more ants on my legs. So I need to go. I'll see you guys later.